Hi, and welcome back to PÖFF TV. I'm Miia. I'm your host for today. We're right in the heart of the Black Nights Film Festival, and today joining me is the brilliant director behind the film Never Alone. With me, I have Klaus Härö. Hi.
Hi, good to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm very fine. We had a premiere, an opening night yesterday with a full hall of people, and it was very great, at big attendance, and it was a great feedback.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about the film Never Alone?
Yeah, the film is set in the Second World War. It's actually a story about the Finnish involvement in the Holocaust. I grew up thinking that Finland, even if we were fighting together with the Germans, we did not have anything to do with the Holocaust and the Jewish genocide. And then I learned when I grew up that, wait a minute, we actually did deport some people. We deported not Finnish Jews, but some refugees that came to Finland before the war. We deported some innocent civilians to Germany in the middle of the war, and knowing, I think, that they were going to a certain death. And of course, I felt very disappointed when I heard about this, and it didn't leave me alone. And from this, the movie grew.
Mm-hmm. Was there maybe a personal experience or event that prompted the creation of this film for you?
Well, I would say there are two things that prompted the creation of this film. One was actually the shock and disappointment that also Finland had a little bit to do with the Holocaust. I mean, you can say it was only 8 people. It was very few in the big picture. But why give up these 8 lives? Because every life is worth something, and it reflects to so many other lives. But the other thing was that I had made a film with Finnish producer Ilkka Matila. We made a film some 20 years ago called Mother of Mine. It was a good experience. The film was well received. And after the film was ready, we sat down like this to talk like, what would be your dream project? And I don't remember who said it first, but without knowing the other person's opinion or thoughts, one said that, I think we should do something about, I would like to do something about the Finnish involvement in the Holocaust. And the other person said, are you kidding me? Like, I was thinking about the exact same thing. So it was just like a wow experience. And from that, the film grew. Then it took us quite a long time to find the main character of the film, because, when you do anything about history, you open one book and there are already like 10 doors open. You read another book and there's 10 more doors open, and it goes in every direction. And of course, when you make a movie, you have to pick and choose. This is our story. And the question that came soon was that, well, did anybody try to help these people? And we found Abraham Stiller, who is the protagonist of our film. So the film, you could say, is loosely based on a documentary book, and then it's a dramatization of the events.
Mm-hmm. What significance you would say maybe Abraham Stiller had in Finnish history in general?
I would say Abraham Stiller is one of these hidden heroes, one of these people that a little group of people will know. I'm sure the Jewish community in Finland will know about him, that he tried to help people, and actually he raised a big noise about the deportations, and out of that they couldn't deport any more people. So he was one of the, you could say, civilians that did a part. He was not the only one. There were men and women who wanted to be, if you will, on the right side of history. They had an idea. They didn't know everything about the Holocaust. They didn't know everything that was going on in Germany, but they knew enough to know that if you deport any Jew there, it's not going to end well. So I would say he's just one of those people who can be such an encouragement to us, because he's not a hugely influential person. He's not a politician. He's not a president or even a huge. He was a businessman, but not a huge businessman. So, but still, despite his like being an everyman, he was able to do something, even in his own life. And in the film, he feels like he failed because these people were deported. But I think we as viewers will say, yeah, well, you feel that you failed, but thanks to your doings, maybe many others were saved. So I think the film in that respect is a mirror where we can reflect ourselves.
Yeah, so just as you said, a hidden hero.
Yeah,
That's very, very well said. So how did you do research for this film?
Well, I've done some historical films, and always when you do historical films, you start to read books and you talk with people who know about the issues. But I find, and I've seen this before, I find that at a certain point, your head is exploding. You come like wherever there are 2 historians, there are 3 opinions. It's like like people will disagree. No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. And this was the actual reason. This is what the actual reason why it happened. And at some point, you just have to say, okay, stop. That's enough. No more research. I have to go into my own imagination and like with empathy try to see what happened behind the scenes. I mean, William Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, and I think he never went to Denmark. So I think that's a good picture. I mean, I'm not against research, and I certainly think it's an important thing in making the world believable. But at a certain point, you know, people will always say, when you make a historical movie, did you include this? Did you include this? Is this person there? Is this event there? And probably the answer to most of these questions concerning this film will be no. No, we did research, but more to ourselves be informed when we do this, so we could respect the times, the spirit of the time, the thoughts, the people, and not to be arrogant, not to make the film feel grounded and rooted in the time. Yeah. But then at a certain time you have to say, okay, I'm gonna go with the imagination lane now. I don't know what happened behind closed doors. I don't know what politicians were talking about when they were sitting like one-to-one like we're doing now. But I can imagine, and I can. That's my job to look behind those closed doors and see what could have happened there.
Yeah. That was very well said. It made me think about other like historical like films and series as well. Yeah, okay. So what would you say was the biggest challenge?
Well, last night for me here in PÖFF, in Tallinn Film Festival was a big night. It was in a way an end of a 15 years journey. It has taken us 15 years more to realize this film. And we shot the film last year, mostly in the Tallinn area and in Estonia, some parts in some iconic Helsinki, because the film takes place mostly in Helsinki. So we would shoot some iconic locations in Helsinki, but mostly we did it here, which was a great joy. But even if the shoot was a challenge, making a historical film is always a challenge, but we were helped by wonderful filmmakers in Estonia. Eugen Tamberg, who is the great costume designer here, Tambet Tasuja, editor, Jakub Roomet, production designer, great Estonian film people. I would say still the biggest challenge probably was the financing, because had we gotten that into place earlier, we would have done this maybe 2012, maybe 2016, but it took us to 2023 to shoot the movie, and here we are now 2024 and having the world premiere at PÖFF.
Yeah, I guess sometimes good things take time.
Yeah, and certainly the film has changed. I mean, I can't, usually when you make a movie script, you make maybe 5 versions, sometimes 10. I'm not sure how many we made, but certainly 15 or 20. And of course, sometimes it felt like we have a huge budget. So we have expanded the film. Then we feel we have no budget, and we have made the film maybe too small. And it's been going back and forth. But along all these years, I'm sure it has found things that we have to leave things out for several reasons. But when you have to leave things out from a film, it's also a good challenge to think, well, if I have to leave things out, what is it I cannot leave out? What is the most important? What is the heart of the story? So it makes you think. It makes you like digest the heart of the film many times, and I hope that shows when you see Never Alone, that it's a film where the audience can feel that they know what they're watching, and even if it's in a way it's a rough ride, in a way it's a sad story, but it's also a story about hope, and it's a story about sort of courage in places where you would not expect.
What's the message you would like the audience to take away from this film, this experience?
Even if it's a film about the Holocaust, it's in many ways a timeless story. I mean, during all these years when we've opened the newspapers, we've said to each other with the producer, I can't believe it. It's just like it's happening again. Like I mean, in one way, the Holocaust is unique. It cannot be compared to other things in history. But then again, there have been. I mean, it's also a story about refugees. So we have had refugee crisis. We've had, people from Ukraine coming here and people helping them. And it's been in all this sadness that we experience right now. I think still there are also stories to be told, stories about unsung heroes and people who've opened their doors, their hearts, their wallets to help people who are refugees. So in this respect, I think it's very timeless. And if you're asking what is the heart of the story, I would say Abraham Stiller was a person who saw people. He came from very poor circumstances, and he would always sort of remember that. And when he was quite well off in his middle-aged and older, he would always remember where he came from and try to help people. And I think in our Judeo-Christian tradition, there's a thing that we have a treasure which I think is worth more than riches, which we should not forget, which is the question when we see somebody who's not well off, somebody who's suffering, that it could have been me. It could have been me, and how would I like to be treated? So I think this timeless question is also a question that the movie raises.
Do you think humanity has learned from these mistakes made in the past, or?
I think it's when you look at the big scope of things, it's very hard to be optimistic. But when you look again at singular cases like Finns, like Estonians, like other Europeans opening their doors to let's say help Ukrainians, there are certainly stories that we can also feel good about. So it's both and.
And what's the next step for you as a filmmaker?
Well, every film that has happened. I mean, this film took 15 years. Never Alone took 15 years to make. Usually, anyway, if they go more smoothly, it takes 2 or 3 years. So I will usually not believe that the next film is happening until I hear the camera rolling there. But I would say, after these 15 years of making this film and waiting for this film, this is really in the film business, they talk about awards season. When it's time for Oscars and Golden Globes, they talk about the awards season. For me, this is really now a premiere season. I mean, in a way, I'm working on other things, small things, but I'm also very, very glad to be presenting this film here at PÖFF, but also we will have an Estonian premiere in January, we'll have a Finnish premiere in January. The film hopefully will travel to other festivals, so I'm really glad just to be presenting the film to the audiences right now.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us and for uncovering these little things about the film.
Thanks so
and thank you for watching PÖFF TV and catch you next time. Bye.